Good evening and welcome to the March 4th, 2025 meeting of the Gary Common Council. We are now called to order. I would ask our Councilman Darren Washington to begin with a prayer as is our custom.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Dear Lord Heavenly Father, we just thank you and praise you for this meeting today. We thank you that everyone is here safely. We ask that you allow the words of our mouth, the meditations of our heart to be acceptable in your sight. Lord, you are our strength and our Redeemer. In the precious name of our Lord and Savior, Yeshua Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please now stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown. Councilwoman Caldwell. Councilman Halliburton.
Present.
Councilwoman Ivy.
Present.
Councilman Washington.
Present.
Councilman Whittington. Councilman Williams.
Present.
President Latham.
Present. With the total,
Madam President, there's 6 present, 2 absent.
thank you. With the total of 6 members present and 2 absent, the Gary Common Council has a quorum to conduct the official business of the Gary Common Council. I'd like to now, colleagues, direct your attention. We have 2 sets of minutes, one from the meeting of February 11, 2025, and one from the meeting of February 18, 2025. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes. It's been moved and properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
Councilman Halliburton.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy. Councilman Washington. Councilman Williams.
Yes.
President Latham.
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 6-0.
Thank you. With a vote of 6-0, the minutes of the previous meetings have been approved. Assignment of pending ordinances and resolutions.
CPO 2025-12, an ordinance amending authorization to the rollover of temporary interfund loans due between City of Gary's funds for 2024, sponsored by Mayor Eddie Melton, City of Gary, Salida Green, City Controller.
Finance.
CPO 2025-13, an ordinance of the City of Gary, Indiana, amending the city fee schedule, Ordinance 9377, by increasing and establishing fees for the City of Gary departments, sponsored by Mayor Eddie Melton, City of Gary, Salida Green, City Controller.
Ways and Means.
Madam President, ends the assignment of pending ordinances and resolutions.
Thank you. Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell.
Madam Chair, the Finance Committee has before CPO 2025-12. For the record, I approve this for reporting out. Councilwoman, a majority of the Finance Committee approves CPO 2025-12 for reporting out.
Thank you, Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. Councilwoman Ivy.
My microphone on. Madam President, the Ways and Means Committee has before CPO 2025-13. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. Yes. Councilman Washington.
Yes.
Madam President, the majority of the Ways and Means Committee has approved ordinance 2025-13 CPO for reporting out to the council.
Thank you, Councilwoman Ivy. At this time, I'll entertain any council members for, roll call. I'm sorry, report out.
Madam Chair, Finance to report out CPO 2025-12.
Councilwoman Ivy?
Madam Chair, Ways and Means reports out CPO 2025-13.
Thank you, Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell and Councilwoman Ivy. At this time, I'll entertain any colleagues for special and select?
Chair.
Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell.
Good evening.
Evening.
March is the National Nutrition Month. And we would like you to incorporate a new nutrition routine this month with the following tips. Stay hydrated. Drink water throughout the day. Boost your vegetable intake. Eat vegetarian for one day and consider doing so one day a week all month long. Choose a less sugary drink. Satisfy a sweet tooth with fruit instead of candy or cookies. Wind down your day with a cup of tea. Plan your healthy snacks ahead of time. Eat a clementine or an orange for a boost of vitamin C. Nibble on carrots after dinner for a healthy option to fight hunger before bed. Choose grilled options instead of fried foods. Now, I challenge you to pick 3 tips from the list that I just read and do them daily through the month of March. Let's celebrate National Nutrition Month. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. I want to make sure I heard you correctly. You said we can satisfy our sweet tooth with cookies, right? Thank you. Any other colleagues for special and select? Councilman Halliburton.
Madam Chair, thank you. Good evening. Second District, myself and Councilman at Large, Dan Washington, will host our Second District Community Meeting. That will take place Wednesday, March 19th at the Gary Public Library and Culture Center, 220 West 5th Avenue. It will start at 5 o'clock and from 5 to 7 p.m. Our guest includes our Chief of Staff, our Chief of Police, our Chief of, Code Enforcement, Recycling, Gear, Redevelopment, as well as Park Department. Please pass the word that we'd like to have everyone to come out. Also, this week starts the boys sectionals in the city of Gary. Good luck to all the Gary teams, especially Gary Westside is playing tonight at East Chicago versus Highland. Go Westside Cougars. Thank you.
Cougars. Any other colleagues for special and select?
Madam President.
Councilman Williams.
Thank you. This is just excuse me. This is just an announcement to the residents of the 6th District. The weather is becoming very permissible, so we will be meeting for a district forum probably next month. The council will be leaving for a conference this month, so we'll be scheduling that for next month, and we will be looking at discussion for the scatter site, the old scatter site off of 49th Avenue, East 49th Avenue, used to be known as Colonial Gardens. We need to take a look at that, and we want to get that cleaned up and discuss the ownership of the property and meet with the owner of the property. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Williams. Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell.
I'm sorry, I forgot 2 other announcements. Love Your Block is still meeting. Their next meeting is scheduled for March the 7th at 6 p.m. at First AME Church, 2045 Massachusetts Street. March the 11th at 5:30 at Beacon Light Community Church, 3770 Burr Street. And March the 13th at 6 p.m. at IUN Northwest in the Student Center, Morena Student Center. That's 3400 Broadway. Please come out and get your information about Love Your Block. Our most important meeting tomorrow, Lake County Convention Center update. We need you there to hear the proposal and see the plans that we have for our wonderful city. This is tomorrow, March the 6th at 5:30 at St. Timothy Community Church, 1600 West 25th Avenue. Mayor Milton, President Matt Shuford from Hard Rock, they will be there presenting the proposal. So we look forward to seeing you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. Any other council members for special and select? I just have a few announcements. Our Parks and Recreation Committee is scheduled to meet on Thursday, March 20th at 6 p.m. We'll be hearing from our new park superintendent, Mattie Fitzgerald Williams, and get updated on the spring and summer schedule at 5 p.m. Thank you, Ms. Franklin. At 5 p.m., our Parks and Recreation Committee is scheduled to meet. So please come out and hear updates from our Park Department. Also on March 8th, beginning at 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., Capital B, which is a very positive and informative news outlet in our community, is hosting Black Mamas Matter, a panel discussion on Black maternal health, where you can learn about the challenges and solutions for Black maternal health and be part of the movement for positive change in our community. That's being held again on March 8th from 11 to 2 p.m. at the Dean and Barbara White Center in Maryville, Indiana. I'm also asking the community to come out and support our Miller Garden Club at the 2025 Heige Film Fest. They'll be watching The Real Dirt on Farmer John. This is Sunday, March 9th at 1 p.m. It's $5 at the door. Cash is preferred. The doors open at 12:30 p.m. And with your $5 admission, there'll be free popcorn and drinks for purchase. Also, the Work in Progress Group will be meeting at the Miller Beach Arts and Creative District at the Marshall Gardner Gallery on Sunday, March 16th from 2 to 4 p.m. It's free and drop in. You'll be able to join other practicing and inspiring visual artists for an informal peer-to-peer review session to share artwork and ideas. You can contact Teresina for more information. Her number is 219-777-5162 for details. And then lastly, you can shake your shape on Sundays, and that's all shapes, apple shapes, pear shapes, all shapes, at 11:30. On Sundays, it's $10. You can come dance with instructor Kaposivi Clark. She's leading a warm-up with isolations and work with easy routines to get your heart rate and circulation aligned and ready. If there aren't any other members for special and select, Councilwoman Ivy is hosting a special presentation today with our city engineer, William Allen, the Safety Action Plan.
Thank you, Madam President. City of Gary Safety Action Plan. Our city engineer is here with the presentation.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the council, for allowing us the opportunity to present this very important presentation for a very important project or goal for the city, which is to improve safety. There is a program called SS4A, which stands for Safe Streets for All, that provides a funding opportunity for $10 million over the span of these next 2 years to implement safety improvement projects throughout roadways. We have Jake from Thailand, who has been contracted to help us put together a plan so that we can apply for implementation funds this spring, this year. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jake, and we can just jump right into the presentation.
Hi, Madam Chair, members of council, thanks for having me. I'm Jake Vissers, a senior transportation planner with TY Len. Sorry, Will. It's all good. And we've been supporting the City of Gary Department of Redevelopment and Department of Public Works and putting together this plan for the last 9 or so months. So excited to share what we've had what we've come up with so far and what the next steps are. You have the presentation up? Oh, perfect. All right, and skip ahead to the next one. Perfect. So a little bit of history on the project itself. This is part of the bipartisan infrastructure law that's passed a couple of years ago. And the total value of this law is about $5 billion over 5 years. That's for both developing plans as well as implementing projects and different strategies that are identified in the plan. So the project that we're doing is a safety action plan, and it's kind of the first step in this entire program. So in order to be eligible for any streetway improvements, bikeway improvements, general safety improvements, you need to have a safety action plan finalized. So that's what we're working to finalize right now so that we're eligible for those funds. And go to the next one. So on top of eligibility for funding, this project really gives you a data-driven, community-focused look at where traffic safety issues lie. So we're looking at the data, we're gathering feedback and trying to identify what the key issues are, and then prioritizing projects, policies, specific actions that can help the city try and address traffic safety issues and make strides towards having safer streets. So a big part of looking at the data is predominantly crash data. At a high level, we looked at 2018 to 2022 crashes in the city of Gary, excluding crashes that occurred on interstates. So these are high-level numbers that occurred just on city streets themselves. And over those 5 years, you're looking at about 2,700 total crashes each year, resulting in over 400 serious injuries. And serious injuries are effectively injuries where the person is unable to walk or unable to leave the scene on their own, basically large lacerations, broken bones, that sort of thing. And additionally, 15 fatalities occurring annually. And looking just specifically at pedestrians and cyclists, so people using the road outside of vehicles, during those 5 years, there was 12 pedestrian deaths and 2 cyclist deaths. And on average, 30 people walking and biking were either killed or seriously injured each year. And you can see that the heat map there, there's a little bit of a different concentration. So a lot of these pedestrian cyclist fatalities, serious injuries, they're occurring in downtown core, on Ridge and Broadway, but largely along these big arterial corridors near key destinations where people might be walking. Just a bit of background as to why we focus in on pedestrian and cyclist deaths. So over those 5 years, despite making up just a little bit under 2% of all of the crashes in the city, they accounted for more than 7% of the serious injuries and fatalities. So the rates don't exactly add up. What that effectively means is that every 10 motor vehicle crashes, so 2 cars colliding, you might get a serious injury, you might get a fatality. For cyclists and for pedestrians especially, that's 1 in every 2. So it's really important that it's incumbent on us to recognize where those crashes are occurring and do everything we can to try and prevent them from happening. There's also a much higher risk when pedestrian severe crashes occur that the person is not necessarily going to be held accountable. 50% of the severe pedestrian crashes that we saw in those 5 years were marked as hit and runs as well. Looking a little bit at causes. So a cause is what the officer believes might have contributed to the crash occurring. 5 major causes contributed to the severe crashes, 68% of severe crashes during those 5 years. Failure to yield, failure to reduce speed, improper lane use, disobeying traffic signs, and roadway departure. And really what this all boils down to is that a lot of these severe crashes, they have some sort of reckless driving, some sort of disregard for the rule, but there's also a lot of speed involved. So when people are driving quickly, when accidents are typically a lot more likely to happen, and when they do happen, the outcomes tend to be a lot more severe. So it's really important that we focus on slowing cars down as much as possible. We also looked at crash types. So this is describing sort of what the impact of the crash actually is when it occurs, not necessarily what might have caused it. Right angle is the most common severe crash type, and this is basically a T-bone crash. So you see these happening a lot on the high-speed roadways with driveways, some of these larger intersections throughout the city. This is not unusual to see this type of crash being the most common crash type that leads to severe outcomes. And then one more crash type that we did see quite a lot of is ran off the road, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a car that loses control, drives off the road, maybe hits a tree or another fixed object. And this accounted for 19% of severe crashes, and again, really points us in the direction of speed being a very common contributing factor. Last piece that we did in our existing conditions report was the development of something called a high injury network. High Injury Network, it's really the culminating piece of looking at the crash data itself, and it's really just trying to identify streets and intersections that have the highest concentration of severe traffic crashes. It's useful for that, just to be able to recognize, where the highest concentration of crashes are, but most importantly, it's useful in helping to prioritize projects where you're going to get the highest impact in terms of safety outcomes per dollar invested. And because of those projects being prioritized, you're able to apply for grant funding for those locations. It's also useful in helping to develop critical partnerships. So being able to identify, is this an NDOT street? Is this a county street? Who do we need to be talking to make sure that these projects get carried out? So this is the high injury network that we developed. The red intersections and segments there is what we're calling the tier 1 high injury network. So that's the highest concentration of severe crashes, both segment locations, so kind of roadways as well as intersections. The orange indicates tier 2 high injury network. So that's sort of like the second tier of highest concentration of severe crashes. Just a couple high level stats. This is a common, you see it in a lot of cities. Just about 6% of the total roadway network, so including the local roads, including the major roads, account for 50% of the severe crashes within the city. So that's kind of the power of a high injury network, is that you're able to look at this map and say anything that's lit up, that's about half of the severe crashes that are occurring in the city. So that's where the investment dollars need to go. That's where we need to be making improvement to actually make the highest impact and traffic safety. Just highlighting a couple streets that popped up the most here. I don't know if this is going to come as a huge surprise, but Broadway, 5th, 4th, Melton, Grant Street, Ridge Road, and then pockets of several other streets. And what you're seeing in the heat map as well is sort of just the general distribution of severe crashes. So you can see how it kind of follows along with the high injury network, and it served as a pretty good data validation that we're doing something right if the crashes are following the streets. On top of data, we looked at feedback from the community. So this is a survey response that we got, just general question: how safe do you feel getting around Gary using different modes? 56% reported feeling unsafe walking, as well as using wheelchairs or mobility devices. And 44% also reported feeling unsafe driving or very unsafe driving. So again, kind of underscoring a lot of what we saw in the data as well. When asked about road design factors, a couple issues that came up in terms of design factors that residents believe contributed to safety: poorly maintained infrastructure, so potholes, faded crosswalks, as well as inadequate lighting. And then particular behaviors that residents found or reported as feeling contributed to safety was speeding and disregard for traffic lights and traffic signals. And then finally, the question about what residents wanted the safety action plan to focus on and try and address. Better enforcement of rules of the road was number 1, and making walking and biking safer and more accessible came out as number 2. Although education and reducing traffic speeds were also 3rd and 4th. So with the whole existing conditions, we kind of boiled it down to a couple key identified issues: reckless driving, high speeds, dangerous severe crash types, and pedestrian and bicycle crashes. Which led us to the most recent phase of the project that we are just wrapping up now, which is the proposed strategy. So after identifying, what the issues are, where the hotspots are, where the crashes are occurring, we tried to put together a comprehensive set of strategies and actions and specific projects to try and comprehensively address those traffic safety issues. First couple here, these are a little bit more on the systemic side. So the first one being align City of Gary policies and processes with the safe systems approach, foster a culture of urgency and transparency around addressing traffic safety. It's a bit of a mouthful, but ultimately all of the actions that sort of fall under that strategy are about trying to offer some level of transparency, some level of consistent reporting to to signal to the public that, hey, we are actively working to try and address this issue. Most of this tends to be a little bit more on the programmatic side rather than like the concrete physical infrastructure projects. Second is to strengthen and modernize traffic enforcement and accountability programs. So that could include anything from that speed feedback sign you see there, just a little bit of a digital reminder when you're driving over the speed limit, to using the high injury network that we developed to try and target enforcement in locations where we know that there's severe crashes, we know that there's excessive speeding and dangerous driving. Strategies 3 and 4, implement a comprehensive traffic calming and speed management program and develop and promote a Gary Streets for Everyone vision to make city streets more friendly to walking, biking, taking transit. Ultimately, these are really just systemic strategies that are about trying to slow vehicles down and make it more comfortable to navigate neighborhoods, particularly locations around schools and parks and big key commercial corridors, easier on foot or on bike, or to access the bus stop, whatever it might be. So this could include things like the temporary traffic calming device that you see in that picture there, speed bumps, improved lighting, improved stop signs, just kind of comprehensive things to try and slow vehicle traffic down and make roads a little bit safer. And then the last two strategies here, these are the kind of bigger ticket strategies. So create opportunities for community-led and supported placemaking efforts in the downtown area, as well as prioritize safety interventions and infrastructure investments on the city's high injury network. These tend to be the bigger projects, the concrete in the ground type infrastructure projects to really reimagine and rethink what some of these major roadways that came up in the high injury network, your Broadway, your 4th, your 5th, your Melton, really rethink what they could look like and how they function in a way that prioritizes safety, both for people driving, people walking, people trying to access stores downtown or in other parts of the city. We developed a couple of concepts, but there's one concept that we'll show here that kind of illustrates our thinking. So this is for 25th Avenue and Grant Street. And we can move to the next one. Yeah, so a couple of changes here, really just resizing the road or appropriately fitting the road for safety and volumes. You can see on Grant Street in particular, those two through travel lanes were reduced to just one through travel lane in each direction. You've got a left turn lane as well as a dedicated bus lane north-south. Along 25th, again, a road diet there, a reduction in road length. And what that really allows for is wider sidewalks, a little bit more green space, as well as much shorter pedestrian crossings at the intersection. And, this is just an example for 25th and Grant specifically, but this intersection really could fit into anything that showed up on the high injury network. So this is sort of the zeitgeist and the gist of the types of projects that we're developing in our concepts. So looking ahead, the next step here is to finalize our safety action plan. We're working to wrap that up this month. We expect the NOFO to come out this spring for implementation funding for the 2025 cycle. And we'll be continuing to support the city and helping to develop a grant application and hopefully go after implementation funding. So that's all I got. I'll turn it back over to Will.
Yeah, and then we'll just open up for questions if you have any.
Sure. Thank you for the presentation. Colleagues, any questions? Councilwoman Ivy.
The road diet that was displayed for the 25th Avenue and Grant Street, if you decrease the size of the road lane, how will that be equivalent to reduce the car accidents? Just trying to make one go with the other.
So, we'll still have to do traffic counts in that intersection to understand how traffic flows through it, but really just aesthetically, what we're doing is just creating a atmosphere where the road is less in width, so that you have the appearance or the feel that you can't speed through that intersection or down the street. We are bumping out the the ADA ramps to provide more room for individuals or pedestrians to cross the street more safely, rather than now today crossing, I don't know how wide the street is, but let's just say it's 30 feet in width. It will feel like pavement-wise, you're crossing the street 22 feet.
And then, for the proposed strategy with the digital, speed limit reminder, remember we were just talking about that, with the stop signs. Is there like a time frame where we could have something like that in Gary?
So yeah, these are just ideas of how we can mitigate speeding and try to improve safety throughout the roadways. As far as timing goes, we would have to put the plan together to apply for construction funding, which every year $5 million will be available for us to use. And I believe we would have to bid out the project and actually implement that project in 2026.
Okay, thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Ivy. To Councilwoman Ivy's point, I've looked into the stop signs that blink red. We get complaints, I get complaints about a number of stop signs in the first district. I'm sorry, Councilman Williams, did you have something?
I can wait.
Okay. So I would love to see something like that in the implementation plan. Also had a few questions. I guess one, in terms of the fatalities and the accidents, you gave our data. I'm just curious to know, if you know, how this measures up with any statewide or national averages. Where are we? And if you could provide some context.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that's something we could pull together for the final plan, do like a per capita comparison. I know in terms of fatalities and just the general trend line that we've seen, it follows very closely with a lot of what you're seeing in the state of Indiana, the city of Chicago certainly, in which you kind of had a trend down over a long period of time, and a little bit before COVID and certainly after COVID, there's been a big spike, and so that's something that was seen here, particularly with fatalities and pedestrian fatalities. But I'd absolutely follow up with you and just give you specific numbers on a per capita basis to give you a good benchmark.
Perfect, thank you. Also, in addition to the proposed strategies that are in the presentation, I'm wondering if you could just help us with some other approaches that help slow down traffic. We know road diets work. We know the accountability signage works. I'm wondering, are there any other things? I see roundabouts a lot.
Yep. So the 6 strategies that I outlined there, just for convenience of time, and I apologize if I didn't explain this very well, but they're sort of, think of them as like broad umbrella, like North Stars of like, hey, we should move towards this. Within the plan itself, underneath those strategies are anywhere from 8 to like 15 specific actions, which may include roundabouts. There's definitely mention of road diets in there, as well as other sort of like tactical urbanism, neighborhood traffic calming, safe routes to school. There's all kinds of specific action items that are actually within those strategies in the plan. So I hear what you're saying, and believe me, they're in there.
Thank you. And then last question before we get Councilman Williams. When our folks see this presentation go out on Facebook and on TV, I'm sure they're going to want additional opportunities to provide input. And with the plan not being final, I'm wondering how residents or community members could continue to contribute.
We still have a website open, and I'd maybe leave it up. If we pull the plan together, would we be able to leave the website open for additional feedback? Yeah, so we have a website open where you're able to leave feedback. I can share that with you all directly, or Will and Chris, and they'd be able to share it over with you. But there's definitely avenues to be able to continue to give feedback.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I had one more. I heard a rumor about 4th and 5th Avenue becoming two-way. Was that something that was established in the plan, or?
Nothing established, just conversations on trying to make 4th and 5th Avenue more safe. So, yeah, nothing concrete.
Thank you. Councilman Williams.
Thank you. Just two quick questions. One, I noticed on your plans you had the bus route. Right now with the city of Gary, we do have streets where it says the lane is labeled for the bus, and I see daily where traffic, and it's due to accidents, that's causing accidents. They're trying to race the bus to get into that lane to get going to where their destination is. And the second one is, which is I'm waiting. I spoke with Vanessa yesterday about it, so I'm hoping that we're going to take action on that pretty soon. On Grant Street, at Grant and Ridge, one lane is on the corner at the tracks. One lane is for straight traffic, and another lane is to turn left. Individuals are racing individuals that are going straight because they feel that they want to go straight in that lane. What can we do to put in place so that they can at least see? Because I know we have signage that says this is a turning lane only. Mm-hmm. What could we do as a city to put something in place so that it'll become a lot safer, maybe so they can see that this is a turning lane further away before they get to that sign?
Yeah, that's something that we can take a look into. There's clearances that can be established and then extra signage and maybe even striping that we can do. But I can get that information. You said you spoke with Vanessa?
Yeah.
I'll talk with Vanessa to see what we can do in the meantime. That's something that probably wouldn't have to wait until we formulate a plan for it. So,
I mean, it's to me the citizens of Gary, they're treating the streets as a racetrack. You know, so I know we're doing our best. We're labeling the streets. We're labeling these are turning lanes and so forth. But if you're not paying attention, if you're not a focused driver, you're going to cause an accident.
absolutely. Yeah, I'll connect with traffic.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilman Halliburton.
Thank you. We just spoke about this yesterday, about the speed feedback signs. Are you saying that in order to see these things, we're looking at what, a year, 2 years from now? What are we looking at, time frame?
Right. In order to see these throughout the city, if they were a project that could be implemented within the plan, we would have to go through the bidding process, acquire the material, install them, and we wouldn't, if awarded, receive the money until the end of 2025. So it's a matter of when we get the funding and then being able to install.
Maybe just as a follow-up question, is there any opportunity to provide some of these things through our already budgeted capital funds?
We can see how much everything costs and then figure out a plan forward, yes.
Thank you. If there aren't any other questions, thank you. Mr. Allen, thank you. T.Y. Land,
All right, thank you so much.
thank you so much for the presentation. Next on our agenda is public comment. We have 3 individuals who have signed up. I'll remind you that each speaker has 2 minutes. Our parliamentarian, Councilwoman Linda Barnes Caldwell, will be keeping the time. And first, we have Albert Edwards. If you'll approach the podium, turn on the mic and state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Albert G. Edwards Jr., 3rd District. I was trying to address the redevelopment, what we have. But I've been talking to the mayor since he was on 15th Avenue at the church to get a meeting with him setting up, because I have a developer who's out of the Baltimore area, and we was trying to get a meeting with the city to try to get part of this redevelopment in the city of Gary. And I've not received any phone calls. He has not received any phone calls. And I've gave a lot of people the data to get in contact with him or me so we can get this development started. I was just wondering, did I need to be in a suit or what to get to these people, to get these things handled? Because I want to know what's going on with the city and how the city of Gary is going to direct with the citizens. Because, like, if you don't direct to me when I'm trying to talk to you, what gives me to say, what are you doing so I can vote for you? And that's what I want to talk about. And also 15th Avenue. 15th Avenue is now a boulevard now. We should open that street up, because there's nothing but trucks down there now. So between, what's that, Colfax to Hammond, railroad tracks, it needs to be opened up so these trucks can go do what they gotta do and the cars can go ahead and pass. That's all I have to say today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Next up to speak is Kwabena Razuli.
Good evening, Council. Kwabena Razuli, 6th District. I remember it used to be 3 minutes, and that wasn't enough, so wish you guys could maybe consider going back to 3 minutes for us to speak. A couple things. The ARPA money for the streetlight project, don't see anybody who looks like the majority of the people in Gary working. I know when that ARPA money first came, there was talk about as best as possible having that money recirculate in our community. It's not happening. It has to happen. It's a no-brainer. It does everywhere else, especially where people really need it. We need that in our community. I always bring this up too. There was an issue. I mean, you guys may remember when Route 6 didn't have all that development going towards Portage and Chesterton. When they were doing it, the mayor stopped them and said, wait a minute, where are my people out here working? The contractor said we couldn't find them. So the mayor put it on them. He said, well, the project stops until you find them. And the contractor, of course, wanted to get paid, so they found them. So we have to have some action on that. I saw the latest video about that project. It said it's going to last all year. I forgot how many millions of dollars it was, but it's simple work. People say, well, people got to be trained. Well, train them. I mean, that money has to recirculate in our community. Also goes the same for what we just heard about this traffic and all that. Does the city have a compliance officer? Is there any reports? Is anything happening? I know the city council used to have a compliance officer. And I don't know if you guys need to do that again, but again, money needs to recirculate in our community. I'll probably say it 3 more times before you kick me out of here, but it has to recirculate in our community. We have to keep our stores open, and we have to be able to fix our potholes. We have to be able to fix our traffic lights and all of that, and that's how you do it. People have to work and all that. Parks, real quick. Park Department would hope that we will be able to get our field ready for us at Midtown for us to play. They fixed the field, they worked on the field closest to Harrison, but the one closest to the neighborhood, that's the one that we use. So we need to have that ready to go. And last, real quick.
Thank you, Mr. Razuli. Thank you. Next up, we have Jim Nowacki. Mr. Nowacki, the button on the mic.
There I go. Madam President, members of the council, my name is Jim Nowacki. I live in the 2nd District. And with spring coming, with only a few more weeks till spring, people are going to be wanting to get out and enjoy our parks. And one of the things that people are going to be wondering is why, after 20 years, the city is still not in compliance with state and federal grant requirements. So 20 years ago, under, I think King was mayor then, we created the MC Bennett Park. We turned it into a shopping center, black-owned. Of course, the black-owned business was out of business in 3 months, but the lingering problem with putting that business there was we took MC Bennett out of our park inventory. So while we still have a relatively modest shopping opportunity there on Grant and 25th, the lingering problem that was created by taking that park out of our inventory is it put us out of compliance with state and federal grant requirements. So we have lost out not only on the millions of dollars that we wasted, $25 million to get that place put together, but we've lost out on tens of millions of dollars that we would have gotten over these years that would have been put right into our parks to make our parks more amenable to our citizens. Now, I know it's an annual event when I come before the council and complain about it, but it seems that after 20 years, that the council should take some action on it. All you have to do is put park acreage in inventory, and that's all you have to do.
Thank you, Mr. Nowacki. And thank you to all those who spoke up during our public comment portion. Thank you for coming tonight. We'll now have ordinances and resolutions on third and final.
CPO 2025-04, an ordinance reviewing a special use permit for property located at 4954 Massachusetts Street to be used as a home daycare by petitioner Kenya Shelton. Petitioner Kenya Shelton, 4954 Massachusetts Street, Gary, Indiana.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Colleagues, is there a motion for passage?
So moved, Madam Chair.
It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been second. Thank you, Councilman Williams. The overview? Are you Ms. Shelton?
My husband and I to come and represent her. We're here to get the final judgment on whether you're going to allow this child care to take place. And I want...
We're going to have Attorney Molina do the overview, and then we'll have you come speak. Is that okay?
That'll be fine.
Thank you. Thank you, Attorney Molina.
Good evening, Madam President and members of the council. CPO 2025-04 is a special use permit for property located at 4954 Massachusetts Street. We reviewed it in depth at the last meeting. Essentially, it's zoned R2 residential, and the petitioner, Ms. Kenya Shelton, who's been here previously and was here at the last council meeting, is seeking to get a special use permit to allow her to operate as a home daycare. As you know, one of the requirements is that she reside in the home, and that is part of the ordinance. The way it's drafted, she would have to prove every year that she resides in the home in order to obtain a business license to go forward with this. But again, this was heard in front of the BZA on December 12th, 2024. It passed unanimously. There were no remonstrators, so there was no issues at least raised in that sense, and the BZA felt that it hit the 7 requirements necessary for a special use permit to be granted.
Colleagues, any questions for Attorney Molina or Mother Shelton? If none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Caldwell. Councilman Halliburton.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy.
Yes.
Councilman Washington.
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
Yes.
President Latham.
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 6-0.
Thank you. With a total of 6 yeas and 0 noes, CPO 2025-04 passes and is so ordered.
CPO 2025-05, an ordinance reviewing a special use permit for property located at 8424 Pine Avenue to be used as a short-term rental property by petitioner Mark Maroney. Petitioner Mark Maroney, 8424 Pine Avenue, Gary, Indiana.
Madam President,
Yes.
I make a motion to move CPO 2025-05 to the March 18th meeting.
It's been moved. Is there a second? Second. It's been moved and properly second. Attorney Williams?
Yes. Well, I think this is important to the vote. Attorney Molina, when was this originally passed by BZA?
Your mic, Attorney Molina.
Yes, it is past the 90 days.
So by operation of law,
It's gonna
it
pass.
has already passed.
Yeah.
See, that's something we have to be careful of, and it's happened because it happened at the end of the year. But once you get to the 90-day mark, if the council fails to act, it becomes law. So there would have to be a motion. I don't even know if we have the authority, and I have to research it to reconsider. But for all intents and purposes, this is law. She has been granted the variance. I guess as an operation, you could still potentially defer it, but again, and I apologize to the new planning chair. I don't know if we've ever had that conversation, but we have to move on these items within 90 days.
Madam President, to Attorney Williams, Mr. Molina asked me at the beginning of the meeting, he made it known at the Planning and Development Committee meeting that by law, this passes. The problem is that they didn't get the ordinance to us in a timely fashion, but most importantly, the person has never attended any meeting. And so I guess we have to, in the future, talk about how we can kind of deal with that. But if we would have gotten this a little bit earlier, we probably could have nipped this in the bud. It's a time issue.
Yeah, and I think that was the purpose. It does pass automatically, but since they weren't here, we were just looking to move it to have them here to do the formal vote.
Attorney Molina, are there any others on our agenda? Two questions. One, is this just for these types of special use permits, the short-term rentals?
No.
No?
That's a general statute that provides on a special use permit, it goes in front of the BZA first, and then the statute provides if there's no action taken within 90 days of the action taken at the BZA, then automatically passes. As Attorney Williams pointed out, this one was a weird one because it was at the end of the year. There's transition, so that's why, and again, as we discussed prior to the last one, we were aware of the statute, but that's essentially what happened here. So it's not particular to short-term rentals, it's any special use permit.
Are there any others on our agenda that might be nearing the 90 days?
No.
Okay. And I agree, I think, with Attorney Williams, Councilman Washington, that in the future, when they don't show, we should, and we're getting near the 90 days, we would have to decide if we want to vote it up or vote it down, correct?
Madam Chair, what I was discussing is under the operation of law, that there's nothing for you to take a vote on. So to assign this to a council meeting would be counterintuitive to the law. If in fact you wanted to bring the parties in, Councilman Washington, it would be appropriate to assign it back to committee and probably get whatever questions you would want answered. But at this point, you are prohibited from voting it down. It is passed by operation of law. But that is something within your prerogative. You can bring them to the committee meeting to get whatever questions you may have answered.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, I agree wholeheartedly with Attorney Williams. I withdraw the motion because it passed by statute. But in the future, I know what we try to do is ensure that at our committee meetings, petitioners come, and this individual has never shown up. So in the future, we're just going to, if they don't show up, we'll just take it in a timely manner and vote it down. So we know what we need to do next time.
Madam Chair, Mr. Molina, did they ever come to a meeting?
They did, well, clearly they did in front of the BZA. They're an elderly couple. They've been out of town. And apparently that's been the issue. I know that's, but that's why they haven't been here. But they were in front of the BZA. They did appear as required.
So they didn't appear. They only came to the BZA. They didn't appear when they were supposed to see us, but they will appear to come get a license or whatever they need to move forward. Okay. Yeah. So please, from now on, would you all check your schedules and everything and make sure, because we don't want this to happen again. It makes us all look bad.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. Thank you, Attorney Molina. I'm not sure if there's any other action that needs to happen at this time.
No, Madam Chair, I withdraw the motion.
Motion to withdraw. Do we need a second? It's been moved and second that we withdraw that motion. Roll call, Madam Clerk?
Councilwoman Caldwell. Yes. Councilman Halliburton.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy.
Yes.
Councilman Washington.
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
Yes.
President Latham.
Yes.
Madam President, vote is 6-0.
Thank you. With a vote of 6-0, CPO 2025-05 is withdrawn. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Madam Clerk?
CPO 2025-07, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana, to rezone 717 through 31 East 49th Avenue, Gary, Indiana, to B51 for petitioner Prince Singh, sponsored by Zoning and Planning Department. Petitioner Prince Singh, 717 through 31 East 49th Avenue, Gary, Indiana.
Madam Chair,
Councilman Washington?
I make a motion, based on we haven't reached the 90-day limit, to move CPO 2025-7 to the March 18th meeting.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Overview or any discussion? No? Oh, to move it, right? Okay. Any discussion?
I will ask Attorney Molina to give details because he asked at the last Planning and Development Committee meeting that this be moved to the 18th.
Okay. Attorney Molina?
Oh, yes, actually, and it was decided at the last meeting, this would have been set for the 18th, so I don't think it was supposed to even be on the agenda for today. So the petitioner didn't know it was on the agenda today because at the meeting, we had asked for the 18th, just because there was a lot of questions about it. In the meantime, they produced evidence of other addresses that was requested by the council. I believe I emailed that to all of you earlier in the week. So that's why we're just asking that it be on the 18th.
Thank you. Attorney Molina has been moved and properly seconded. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Caldwell. Yes. Councilman Halliburton.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy.
Yes.
Councilman Washington.
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
Yes.
President Latham.
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 6-0.
Thank you. With the vote of 6-0, CPO 2025-07 has been moved to our March 18th meeting.
CPO 2025-08, an ordinance amending City of Gary Ordinance 9749 and approving additional salaries and operating budgets for the City of Gary's tourism, fleet, self-insurance, baseball maintenance, Love Your Block, and Lake Michigan coastal funds for the calendar year 2025, sponsored by Mayor Eddie Melton, City of Gary, Salida Green, City Controller.
Madam Chair,
Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell?
the Finance Committee has before CPO 2025-08. We'd like to move for passage on third and final.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Williams. Controller Green, for the overview. Welcome. Thank you.
Welcome and thank you, Madam President. Good evening, council members. We are requesting the tourism, which consists of, the tourism fund consists of 3 departments: fleet, self-insurance, baseball maintenance fund, Love Your Block, and Lake Michigan coastal funds to be approved. These are special revenue funds that were not included in the original ordinance for 2025 budgets, Ordinance 9749. I can do the overview, and all the department heads are here if you have any questions about the expenditures. The first one is for the Tourism Department of the South Shore Visitors Tourism Fund. We're requesting $50,000 to be budgeted under grants and subsidies. And this department encourages tourism regionally. The second budget for this fund is for economic development. We are requesting $31,000 under current charges. And these funds will be used for the Women's Recognition Sponsorship event that is going to be held. And we are actually have sponsorships to cover those expenses, but we have to have the budget to pay out the expenses. It would also include Juneteenth, as well as Touch a Truck, and anything else or events we can have with the $31,000. The last department under this fund is for the Railcat Stadium. And for the Railcat Stadium, last year we paid back to school expenses out of this fund. And this would include, again, any other events that we can have at the Railcat Stadium where we can use these funds for those events. Next page is the revenue projection sheet. For 2025, we're expecting $22,000. And for our cash reserve, we're rolling over $63,471. Our total to be for this year would be $26,000 coming from the Visitors Bureau, $10,000 for tourism, and $16,000 for economic development. We expect to receive, along with the rollover for what we currently have in the account, $112,291. I did mention in the committee meeting that these funds have decreased over the last few years. I did call the Visitors Bureau and ask about it. We used to have public safety expenses that were covered. So there was an additional about $22,000 that we received. They said since we no longer have the Genesis Center, that they've reduced some of our funding. Okay. Continue.
Or any questions? We can pause here. Any questions, colleagues? I do have a question about the funding we get from the South Shore Visitor and Convention Bureau. Who makes the determination? Or how is that determination made, how much we get?
It isn't clear to me. The funds come from the county and they're distributed to the Visitors Bureau, and this comes from income, the innskeeper taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And I have asked several times about the amounts that we no longer get, but haven't gotten a clear answer yet.
Are short-term rentals included in that innkeeper's tax?
No, I don't believe they are.
Okay. Mm-hmm. You look like you want to say something, Chief of Staff.
Yes, Madam Vice President, the funds, now that the SSCVA is covered and have to report out to the county commissioners and Lake County Council, they are now overseeing that budget, but we haven't seen that first version of that. So I believe that there's going to be some transparency. I think that's the same thing that's now coming or proposed legislation downstate for the same thing with the the Little Calumet River Basin Committee. So both of those now fall under the county's jurisdiction as far as those reports. And then to answer your question, she's correct. The short-term rentals do not go into innkeeper's tax.
Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell is also making a good point that we have an appointee to. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. The next budget is for the fleet insurance. For this budget, just to give some background, we spent $125,000 in 2024. It was a settlement. And for this year, we spent $12,546. And this is for for accident repairs. We're requesting $150,000 under the repairs, $400,000 on the property insurance, $300,000 under repairs to equipment, a total of $900,000. For the revenues, we are supposed to, each year after the first year, deposit $500,000 into this fund. So we will be depositing $500,000 this year, $777,000 rolled over from last year. So we will have a total of $1,277,207 in the Fleet Self-Insurance Fund. Next, we have the Baseball Maintenance Fund. And for the baseball maintenance fund, several years ago, there was a contract that was originated for the baseball stadium to do all of the cleaning for the stadium. And that is a sub-agreement to the master agreement. It indicates that we will pay up to $150,000 per year for the cleaning, provided that they give us all of the invoices. If there's anything that needs to be contracted out, they have to follow the city's procurement process. And they also, as part of the master agreement, have to pay the city $150,000 a year in admissions. So the $300,000 is for the last couple of years, as we know that in 2024, and for 2025. The payment did not take place in 2024, although we have in the last few months received the invoices, and the Public Works Department has reviewed those so that we can pay them. But we have to establish a budget for last year and this year for the $300,000 before we can pay it. And they can pay us also. Next, we have the Love Your Block grant, and in 2024, there were no funds expended, although there was a budget. They're requesting $3,000 for supplies and materials, $50,000 for the project manager, $10,000 for additional professional services, $5,000 for printing, and $2,000 for advertising, a total of $70,000. The revenues indicate that they received $50,000 last year, which is rolled over for this year, and there was $20,300 left over from the previous year, which gives them $70,440 to spend for this year. And our last budget is for environmental affairs. Lake Michigan Coastal Project. They're requesting $50,287 to spend under other materials, professional services, $13,000, printing $5,000, a total of $68,287. That budget will be paid for by a transfer from one of their other funds to the Lake Michigan Coastal Program. That concludes the budgets.
Thank you, Controller Green. Colleagues, any questions?
I have one, Madam President.
Councilwoman Ivy.
Just a question about the advertising for the Love Your Block. I wonder what advertising outside of social media was presented to the residents of Gary.
We have someone coming to answer your question.
Thank you.
Hello, I am Tiara Williams. I'm the VISTA for the Love Your Block program, and you were asking about the other advertisement that we have for Love Your Block. First of all, thank you so much for having me today. We are actually still meeting with our, to see what other advertisement we are doing. We are also have some merchandise and things that we are trying to advertise. So right now it is mainly social media and the internet. But we do have some merchandise that we're trying to purchase.
Friday is the second or third meeting for Love Your Block? Third?
Friday is our second meeting for Midtown. I'm actually passing out flyers to our audience right now. Okay. But that is our second meeting.
Well, you had another meeting in Glen Park?
We've actually had a total of 3 meetings. We had our meeting in Midtown, Black Oak, and Glen Park, and now we're working on our round 2 sessions. The first one being March 7th, which is Friday in Midtown.
Okay. I just get a little concerned with the citizens that may not be on Facebook or social media that may have wanted to attend those meetings, and with the budgeted amount for the advertising, if we can do something a little different to get the word out, even if we use the flyers that you have here today to maybe get them passed out or delivered or mailed out or something?
Well, we do have an outreach plan that does include canvassing neighborhoods. We've actually, in Midtown, we have canvassed those neighborhoods, passing out flyers to, calling on our business partners, passing out flyers to places where our residents frequent. So that's kind of where we are, boots on the ground and word of mouth.
That's been done already, or that is in the works?
For Midtown, that has been done. For Black Oak and Glen Park, that has been done, but then that's round one. So we want to go back and continue to do our outreach, reaching out to IUN and our high schools, getting them involved as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair,
Councilman Washington.
how was the turnout for your 3 previous meetings?
They were wonderful, actually. We had a full house at Midtown and Black Oak. They were early. Glen Park, it was a little sparse, and I believe it's because we were competing with an event that was at Westside. But Midtown and Black Oak, they, like I said, a full house, and the discussion was amazing. Our constituents, our residents, our business owners, our stakeholders were able to share what they wanted to see in their neighborhoods, and then they were able to connect with their neighbors who shared the same passions for the projects that they wanted to start. It was wonderful. There were hugs, and with Black Oak, we just had to come in and first set the stage for what our city services would offer, because they were concerned about that. Before we can even encourage them to love their block, we wanted to let them know that we did support them from the city standpoint. So we had a good turnout. And I'm excited about our next sessions. And we've partnered with people in the community who are already doing this work. And now we're just supporting them. So it was good. It was a good turnout.
Councilman Halliburton.
I just have a question. I had a constituent ask me about this particular program. They live in the 2nd District. Are we able to come to the 2nd District and talk about our blocks, or is just basically assigned to specific, like the Midtown, the Black Oak area?
Well,
what exactly do you guys talk about, if you don't mind sharing with me?
Oh, I do not mind sharing. Actually, it's a passion. We are right now focusing on Midtown, Black Oak, and Glen Park. And the idea is this is just our pilot year. This is our first year doing this. And what we're saying is this year, you help your neighbor. Next year, your neighbor will help you. So we're trying to bring together a community, one Gary. Even though you're a part of this neighborhood, what happens in your neighbor's block will affect you. So we're saying, let's all work together to beautify our area, to love our block. And when the time comes again, it'll be your turn. That's kind of what we're asking right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Halliburton. I don't think you've been before the body before. Do you mind introducing yourself and your role?
I do not. My name is Tiara Williams. I'm Tiara Williams. I am the VISTA for the Love Your Block program, which just means that I am the volunteer coordinator for this program. I am responsible for coming up with an outreach program, for being the point of contact for our volunteers and getting them encouraged and supporting them. I always say, for every measure of ask, there needs to be an equal unit of support. I'm the unit of support. I'm the volunteer coordinator.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just for clarification, I saw your face, Madam Vice President. The VISTA is covered by the grant and is not technically a city employee, but covered by the grant and is a AmeriCorps volunteer paid position.
I understand.
Oh, okay.
I just never see. I thought it would be nice for everyone to know your name and your role.
Well,
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to pass
And thank
this
you,
out
Chief.
to everyone in the audience so that they can feel welcome to please come to these sessions and share your voice. It is so important. We cannot do the work without you. So please come. Thank you. Thank you.
Colleagues, any other questions? Controller Green, I did have one question about the environmental affairs. It's listed as the Buchanan, the Lake Michigan Coastal Program. I'm assuming the funds are going to our, hi, Ms. Henry. are going toward the Buchanan Green Gateway? Is that still the project?
Yes, that's still the project, the Buchanan Street Green Gateway. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Sorry about that. But I'm Brenda Scott Henry, and I'm the Director for the Office of Sustainability and Environmental Affairs. And that Lake Michigan Coastal Program is a grant that we received previously, but as to work on the Buchanan Street Green Gateway. As you know, that site is adjacent to the Grand Calumet River, and there's a strong initiative that's going on regionally that requires us to do some cleanup of the Grand Calumet River. Is an area of concern, and any project that we can do to support that initiative counts towards some things that we're doing, not only in the city of Gary to reduce stormwater from pollution from entering into the Grand Calumet River, but it also supports some things that we have under the long-term control plan, which helps us to meet some requirements that we have there. So it's really critical that we do projects that are focused on the Grand Calumet River in that corridor. Yes. But this is a nature-based project that will allow us to turn abandoned property that was demolished by redevelopment, that they allowed us to use in the grant to clear it out, clear the layers of debris that was there, and then just plant like a prairie in the rear ends of it, in the rear of the properties, of the 11 properties, and then in the front part, keep that cut low and clear so that, it's something that's acceptable by the community and the residents who gave us the feedback in that area.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. Are there any other of the city's gateways that might get any attention either now or in the near future? I understand that this one, because of its proximity to the Grand Calumet River, but I was always excited about this project because some of those entrances are usually our visitors' first impression of the city. So if we could replicate this in other gateway areas of the city, or if there are any plans to do that, I think that would be great.
Yes. I'm pretty sure that there are. I have to ask Christopher Harris, who's over redevelopment, and kind of coordinate some projects that are going around in the city, but I don't have another one in the pipeline for replicating this one. This one is very challenging because we were dealing with soils that had been, unkept for a long time, and it takes time to get that look that you really want. So we'll spend some more time cleaning up, clearing out, thinning out some things, and planting trees and native plants in that area.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other discussion on CPO 2025-08?
Okay.
If not, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Caldwell. Yes. Councilman Halliburton.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy.
Yes.
Councilman Washington.
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
Yes.
President Latham.
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 6-0.
Thank you. With a vote of 6-0, CPO 2025-08 has passed and is so ordered.
CPO 2025-09, an ordinance reviewing a special use permit for property located at 254 Cleveland Street to be used as a home daycare by petitioner Linda Everett, sponsored by Mayor Eddie Melton, City of Gary, petitioner Linda Everett, 254 Cleveland Street, Gary, Indiana.
Madam President,
Councilman Washington?
I move for approval of CPO 2025-09.
Thank you for that motion, Councilman Washington, and for the second, Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. Overview? I'm assuming that's being done by Attorney Molina?
Yes, thank you, President. 2025-09 is a home daycare, again, similar to the very first one that we dealt with Ms. Shelton. This is Linda Everett is the petitioner. Property is located at 254 Cleveland Street. It is zoned residential R3. In that district, a special use is allowable for a home daycare. She has the same requirements that she would have to prove that she resides in the home in order to get a business license every year. This went in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals on January 9th. It passed unanimously. There were no remonstrators against the property or the project. And again, the BZA felt that it had met the 7 factors and voted unanimously to favorably recommend a special use permit for the property.
Thank you, Attorney Molina. Colleagues, any questions, comments? If not, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes, she is.
Attorney Molina is the petitioner here.
Yes, that's her. She's here.
Oh, okay. Yes.
You're here on behalf of Ms. Everett.
Councilman Halliburton.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy.
Yes.
Councilman Washington.
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
Yes.
President Latham.
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 6-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 6-0, CPO 2025-09 is approved and is so ordered. It's passed and is so ordered.
CPO 2025-10, an ordinance reviewing a special use permit for property located at 5310 West Ridge Road to be used as a gas station and convenience store by petitioner Sahib Isher LLC, sponsored by Zoning Department, petitioner Sahib Isher LLC, 7133 Fawn Valley Drive, Sherrville, Indiana.
Councilman Washington.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move for approval of CPO 2025-10.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Attorney Molina, are you doing the overview?
Yes, President. 2025-10 is a special use permit. The property is located at 5310 West Ridge Road, which is currently B31 zoning. The property owner owns the lot immediately adjacent to this, which already has a special use permit, which can allow for a gas station. When this lot at 5310 West Ridge came available, the property owner purchased it with bigger plans to make a nicer gas station. This came before the Board of Zoning Appeals on January 9th. And again, it's to operate a gas station and a convenience store. The zoning there allows this only with a special use permit, meaning that it must meet the 7 factors. The BZA voted unanimously in favor of it, and there were no parties speaking against it at the public hearing. If there are any questions, I'm certainly happy to answer them.
Questions? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
No.
Councilman Halliburton.
No.
Councilwoman Ivy.
Abstain.
Councilman Washington.
No.
Councilman Williams.
No.
President Latham.
No.
Madam President, 5 noes, 1 abstention.
With a vote of 5 noes and 1 abstention, CPO 2025-10 fails.
Madam President, as pending ordinances and resolutions on third and final.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll now have council pending ordinances and resolutions on second reading.
CPO 2025-12, an ordinance amending authorization to the rollover of temporary interfund loans due between the City of Gary funds for 2024, sponsored by Mayor Eddie Melton, City of Gary, Salida Green, City Controller.
Madam Chair?
Councilman Barnes Caldwell.
Yes. I move for passage on second reading for CPO 2025-12 with a committee meeting scheduled for March the 13th at 5 p.m. and a public hearing March the 18th at 6 p.m.
It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been moved and properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Caldwell. Councilman Halliburton.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy. Councilman Washington. Councilman Williams.
Yes.
President Latham.
Yes.
Madam President, vote is 6-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 6-0, CPO 2025-12 has passed on second reading with a committee meeting on, what were those dates again, Council? March the 13th at 5 p.m. And our public hearing on March the 18th at 6 p.m.
CPO 2025-13, an ordinance of the City of Gary, Indiana, amending the city fee schedule ordinance number 9377 by increasing and establishing fees for the City of Gary's departments, sponsored by Mayor Eddie Melton, City of Gary, Salida Green, City Controller.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there a motion?
Yes, Madam President. Madam President, I move for passage of ordinance CPO 2025-13 on second reading, with the Ways and Means Committee meeting set for Thursday, March the 20th at 5:30, with a public meeting set for Tuesday, April 1st at 6 p.m. here in the council chambers.
Thank you, Councilwoman Ivy.
Thank you, Madam President.
Roll call. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Caldwell. Councilman Halliburton.
Yes.
Councilwoman Ivy.
Yes.
Councilman Washington. Councilman Williams.
Yes.
President Latham.
Yes.
Madam President, the vote is 6-0.
Thank you. With a vote of 6 yeas and 0 noes, CPO 2025-13 has passed on second reading with a committee meeting on March the 20th at 5:30 p.m. and our public hearing on April the 1st at 6 p.m.
Madam President, as pending ordinances and resolutions on second reading.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Are there any reports or questions of city officials? You all emailed a report. I'm wondering if you'd like to pull some highlights from the report? Or are there any questions from council members on the report? Councilman Halliburton?
It's not a question about the report. I just want to give kudos for the city on the sign outside City Hall as well as the public safety building. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Halliburton. Any other reports, questions from city officials? If not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Hold up.
Councilman Washington.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we are watching the Indiana legislative session, I wanted to bring to mind, there was an article today in the newspaper, in the Post, I believe, that our mayor spoke on the airport. And I'm going to ask that the investigation committee, and I'm asking the consideration of our president and Linda Barnes Caldwell, When we look at House Bill 1001, the budget bill, there's a major concern that our city is pretty much being attacked by the legislature. And so when our mayor first came in, he didn't have the ability to choose all of his own airport representatives. He has 4, and some of them did resign, and he were able to choose. 2 decided not to resign. But my problem, Madam Chair, and to the public, is in House Bill 1001, State Representative Ed Soliday has implemented in that bill to take 3 of the 4 appointments away from the mayor. And he wants to give 3 of those appointments to the city of Hammond, the city of Crown Point, and I believe it is the Northern Indiana Commuter Transportation District, NICTD. And so a couple questions come up. First thing is, I'm not saying Hammond or Crown Point is behind this, but what are they bringing to the table for as the development of the airport? Crown Point, which is far out of our TIF, and Hammond, which is next door, and NICTD. One thing that I don't think many people understand is that we have a federal compact, and we're working with the Chicago airport, and it has been stated that that the state wants us to give up, or certain representatives wants us to give up that compact, which is not a good thing. And with that compact, the state cannot take over the Gary Chicago airport. But they can, through legislation, increase the board of the airport to thus take authority away from the majority of the votes that goes to the mayor's office. And so I'm urging you to contact our legislators and also Ed Soliday to ask them not to do this. Now, we also look, there's a House bill, and I believe it is House Bill 1461. You have to be very careful and you have to pay attention, because House Bill 1461 literally gives the governor power to make all of our interstate highways tollways. So now the governor, and this bill was kind of a similar bill was passed in 12-17, but the difference is that if the governor seek federal money to turn a interstate highway into a tollway, it couldn't be 75 miles within a current tollway, which is the tollway, I-90. Well, what this bill does, it gives the governor the ability to take that 75 miles away. So there is a possibility in the future I-65 and I-94 in the state of Indiana can possibly be tollways that people are paying tolls to come back and forth. And what does this have to do? It has everything to do with transportation, because NICTD is a part of this, and we're looking at possibly losing control of our Gary Airport. And so I just wanted to ask our colleagues to consider an investigation, and this is an investigation. Last year, and this happened actually before the Melton administration came in, and we all saw it in the newspaper, the airport board purchased Griffith Airport. And Griffith Airport is not in our TIF, our tax increment financing district. And the question has been, why do we spend TIF money for the city of Gary for the Griffith Airport? And what benefit of us using our TIF money through the Gary Airport to buy the Griffith Airport? And what is the benefit? Because if I have articulated before, we have a director who makes more than 90% of governors in the United States of America, and we do not have passenger service. And anytime we have representatives from the airport come to this council, it is somewhat met with a bit of hostility. And so, Madam Chair, and I will be conferring further with you and Ms. Barnes-Caldwell to look at it potentially after we speak to our attorney about a potential investigation, because that question had never been publicly answered. Why did we use our TIF money from Gary to buy a airport in Griffith that's not in the TIF. And I may be wrong, but I think that's not legal to do that, but it was done anyway. So, Madam Chair, that's my comments for this evening.
Thank you, Councilman Washington. Attorney Williams has done the research on how to establish a legislative committee. I would just ask him to share that with the body.
No, not legislative. We got an investigation committee. I'm talking about investigation. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, we already have that. We have our esteemed colleague, I think Councilwoman Caldwell is the chairman of that. You previously asked at the other meeting about establishing a legislative committee.
Yes.
I did do the research on that. Under Section 2-213 of the council's rules, the council president has the authority to create a committee. That does not require a vote of the body. However, the chairman of that committee would require a vote of the body. So whenever you're prepared to proceed, Madam President, you do have that authority, and then it would require a majority vote of the chairman of the committee.
Thank you, Attorney Williams, and thank you, Councilman Washington, for your diligence.
Thank you.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you.